In this update, we're going to be talking about a massive storm system with major flooding and heavy snowfall, as well as multiple rounds of severe weather, including tornadoes, as well as a nor'easter, as it promises to be a very active week ahead. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Happy Sunday, everyone. We got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a very active week ahead. Check out this. This is off the coast of the Pacific Northwest. This is what came to be a bomb cyclone. It actually looks like a hurricane out here, but it's spinning and it's an extratropical system. And in fact, it's really impressive and rapidly deepening overnight. That's going to set the stage for very high winds and dangerous seas today that's coming in off the west coast here. But it's going to pull all this atmospheric river of moisture and dump copious amounts of rain along the coastal regions where some of these areas could see double-digit rainfall. So let's take a look at the jet stream. So man, this has been a really impressive storm. It had literally dropped 50 millibars overnight down to a 943. In fact, we're in rare territory with that 943 confirmation. We have never seen, since they actually started keeping records since 1950, the last 71 years, a storm of this strength and this location where it's located currently. So we are in rare territory, and this jet stream is packing winds of 250 miles per hour in the upper levels. So this has a lot of energy with it, and this is diving down southward. That's bringing the very high winds and very heavy rainfall into the Oregon and especially northern California coast. But it's going to send a lot of energy into the U.S., and that's going to send multiple rounds of severe weather as we set the stage for a very active week ahead. So let's take a look at the hazard map this morning. This area in purple, that is your hazardous seas. I mean, we're talking waves of 30 to 40, upwards to 50 feet out here just off the coast here. We got gale warnings producing high waves of 20 to 30 feet, upwards to 35 feet along this area. We've got those flash flood watches for northern California. We got all kinds of high wind watches from Oregon to California to Nevada here. And then we also have another area of flood threat here into Illinois as well as Indiana today, with a lot of heavy rain for them as well. So let's take a look at the waves, because man, this is really impressive. I mean, these waves are approaching upwards to 90 feet offshore, but as you get inland, I mean, look at the direction of where these go. That's why they've got all those hazardous sea advisories right now. It's going to be dangerous swells out here, but even along the coast, I mean, it's not out of the question. You could see some of those 30 to 40 foot waves just off the coastal region. So you're going to definitely feeling it as we get later into this morning, and especially this afternoon into the overnight hours of this 24-hour event that's coming in off the west coast, and especially for northern California. So let's take out the winds. This is the approximate wind gust you could see over the next 24 hours. And with this, you can see some of these hurricane force wind gusts right along the coast. So it's definitely not out of the question. You could be seeing some of those 60, 70 miles per hour, especially if you live along the coastal communities here. Further inland, you'll still could see anywhere of 45 to 55 miles an hour at times. So it's going to be a very windy day as this system continues to rapidly pull in and get a little bit closer to the coastline. So as we move into the flood threat, because that's the serious threat as well, we're in rare territory. In fact, they have actually expanded the moderate risk for excessive rainfall into northern California here. This is an area obviously that's been extremely dry. It's kind of feast or famine. I mean, San Francisco is one of the top 5 rainfall places in the country today. Sacramento as well. I mean, these are places that just haven't seen rainfall in like months. And there's also an area along here that has a high risk, and only 3% of the days see a high risk. And so that is a recipe for very excessive rainfall and very dangerous as well, upwards to 8 to 10 inches, if not higher in these isolated amounts. Here's a graph, let me show you some of these rainfall totals, and that's where they're picking up some of these double-digit totals right here, just essentially east of the San Francisco Bay Area. But you can see definitely this is just over a 24-hour time span of anywhere from 2 to 4 inch swath easily, and then upwards into 5, 8, upwards to double-digit totals where they have the moderate and if not the high risk area today. But also right here into Illinois and Indiana, they still have a moderate risk where you can see easily 4 to 6 and if not upwards to 8 inches of rainfall just today alone, or these training thunderstorms just dump copious amounts of rain later on this afternoon. But we also have a severe threat we're going to have to be dealing with. So we have a 1-2 punch with these systems, and now we've got an expanded view of the enhanced risk area covering a huge area of real estate, anywhere from St. Louis to Springfield, getting into Columbia, Missouri, as well as Fort Smith, Arkansas, all the way down into portions of Jackson, Tennessee here, as well as getting into Tulsa, Oklahoma, Louisville, Kentucky, Lincoln, Nebraska. This is a huge area that could see strong to severe thunderstorms later on this afternoon. It's not out of the question too, along the coast, you can see some stronger thunderstorms today as that system moves inland. But here's your tornado threat. This is the most concerning to me because they've got a huge area of a hatched risk. That's the area that you could be a little bit more probability of seeing some of those stronger tornadoes upwards to that EF2 type category. And this is an area in and around the St. Louis, Missouri area, Springfield, Missouri, Columbia, Fayetteville, going into St. Charles, especially in the right around the Missouri area. Central Missouri is going to be the bullseye later on this afternoon. Anywhere from Little Rock all the way down to Indianapolis to Overland Park, Kansas. So you can all see a possibility of a tornado later on this afternoon, and even along the coast. So there's the summary. Scattered severe thunderstorms associated with damaging wind gusts, isolated large hail, and tornadoes are expected for parts of the Ozarks in the middle of the Mississippi Valley, especially this afternoon going into tonight. And then you could still see a possible severe storm, if not a tornado, along the coastal Pacific Northwest coastal regions. So definitely be on the lookout today. It is a very dangerous day, so you definitely have to be weather aware and keep your NOAA weather radio handy, because this is a fast moving system. The jet stream is just screaming across. These storms are going to be moving at 50 to 60 miles an hour, so you're not going to have little to no time to prepare. Here's to kind of give you an idea of when to maybe expect some of these storms. This is the latest HRRR model. You can see the boundary here, and that's why they have the moderate risk of flash flooding into Illinois and Indiana. These training thunderstorms just get sending relentless amount of precipitation over that boundary. But on the south side, that's where they could break out of the warm sector and form those isolated to severe thunderstorms. And where they're isolated, that's where they can spin up those tornadoes and those large hail threat. And then eventually it'll form into a nasty squall line of those 60, 70, upwards to possibly 80 mile per hour wind gusts as these move across. So this is an area about 3 o'clock this afternoon, getting into portions of central Missouri, and this will just continue to build and what they call back build back behind it and into Arkansas, going into Oklahoma as these continue to move off into the southeast. So as we transition into your Monday timeframe, that same storm system continues to push off to the east. Now places like Charlotte are going to be under the gun for seeing those severe storms, into Raleigh, going into Greensboro, all the way into Durham, but even into parts of New York City, into Philly, DC, Virginia Beach, all those areas into Baltimore, Maryland could see those stronger to severe thunderstorms as we get into that Monday time frame. But as we continue to move, that same system just continues to move. Now it goes offshore and creates a nor'easter by the time we get into Tuesday night, into the overnight, into Wednesday morning. We could be looking at a 985 millibar low pressure developing off the Long Island coast here, sending waves and waves of very heavy rainfall. It's not a snow event by any stretch of imagination. It's a very heavy rainfall event and a wind threat, because these winds are going to be packing a punch, just screaming. This area of low pressure kind of gets trapped in between some troughs and it's not going to be able to go anywhere. So that's going to send spokes and spokes of energy out into the interior regions of getting into places like Connecticut, into Rhode Island, into Massachusetts with those very heavy rains and high winds off into Cape Cod. There's some of your high winds that you could possibly see by the time we get into late Tuesday into Wednesday timeframe of these stronger wind gusts of up to 50, 60, again, possibly up to 70 miles an hour in this region, anywhere from Long Island into Connecticut, into Rhode Island, off the coast of Cape Cod here, into Massachusetts, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire. All these areas could be under the gun to see some of those stronger wind gusts with that low pressure system off the coast. And yeah, the Weather Prediction Centers are already highlighted that slight risk for excessive rainfall for your area by the time we get into that Tuesday, going into that overnight Wednesday time frame. So, but we're not done, because now we got that bomb that's coming in off that second system that's coming out off the West Coast now. That's going to be situated over Texas and getting into portions of Oklahoma by the time we get into late Tuesday afternoon, with the remnants of what was be Hurricane Rick down here into the Pacific. So let me show you Rick, because this is a hurricane currently right now just off the coast of Mexico. It's barely moving at 3 miles an hour, packing winds of 85 miles an hour. It's going to continue to strengthen until it makes landfall. But what it's going to do is it's going to shear and rip apart, but it's actually going to be able to feed these systems as these move across and help pull in with more rain and a lot of the energy that you're going to be needing with those 850 millibar winds screaming from the south to the north as that jet screams across from west to east. And that's going to set the stage for more severe weather as we get into late Tuesday night. So now we're talking places down into Fort Worth, into Oklahoma City, into Wichita, Kansas, all the way up here, all the way down far south is San Antonio, into Austin, into Waco, and into the Dallas-Fort Worth area as they form along a dry line. So these storms are going to form along a dry line. You got a cold front down back out to the west here. As these storms form along the dry line, say late Tuesday night, these will continue to push eastward into the overnight hours on Wednesday and finally start to wind down somewhere along here about Wednesday afternoon into East Texas. But those will be packing all three modes of severe weather. The main threat with those are going to be damaging winds, and then you have that a large hail, and then you have that isolated tornado threat with these particular storms. But as that same system continues moving across, this vorticity really starts to get its act together. It pulls in a lot of the moisture from the Gulf, a lot of the remnants from what was Rick. So that is going to help feed the thunderstorms by the time we get into that Wednesday time frame. Now we're talking places like Dixie Alley area could be under the gun to see some of those stronger severe thunderstorms into New Orleans, going into Baton Rouge and Montgomery, Alabama, Mobile, Jackson, Alabama. So it's a very active week, guys, but we're not done with that either, because yes, that same vorticity continues moving across. And by looking at this, you would think, hey, it's October. It's not January. If this was January, this would set the stage for being very happy snow lovers out there, sending copious amounts of snow for the southeast and up along the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. But it's not going to be forming in the form of snow because it's only October. But we got a lot of heavy rain going to be pulling in all that deep tropical warm Gulf moisture down here to the south side. That's going to continue to wrap up and really intensify as we get into next weekend, because by the time we get into late Friday time frame, we've got that comma Q shape. We got a 996 millibar low pressure setting up over Georgia. So yeah, if it was cold enough to snow, that would be a lot of happy snow lovers out there. But it's all going to be in the form of rain, and some heavy rain at that, going into Kentucky, going into Virginia, into West Virginia, going into Pennsylvania by then. This will continue to lift off the coast. We actually have two areas of low pressure. One forms out at sea, the other is interior, drops down to a 992. So this is another intense storm as it continues to kind of wrap around, sending very heavy rainfall. So we're talking almost going into Halloween time frame by then, as this continues to push up along the East Coast down to a 994 millibar over West Virginia here. As this continues to move up the East Coast, dumping those heavier rains and flooding. So there's your wind swath. I told you it's going to be an active week. From west to east across the nation through now and Halloween. Man, all those winds today off the west coast of 50, 60 miles per hour, no question. But man, look, this is the wind swath across the nation. There's your graph at the bottom of 50 to 60 miles per hour winds, at times even higher than that. So it's a very active, windy week. So definitely hold on to your hats and be careful driving and keep both hands on the steering wheel. But there's your rain too. I mean, it's some of these areas, again, into California today, we're talking double digits. That's why they have the high risk flood threat today. This yellow area, anywhere from 10 upwards to 15 inches. That's actually just over a 24-hour time span. But along the west coast here, adding to those totals that you've already seen so far, there's the boundary over Iowa into Illinois, as well as Indiana and northern parts of Ohio here, where they could have a 4 to 6 inch swath. But yes, getting into the Northeast with these compounding effects from the nor'easter, plus that second system that's coming in late the next weekend. Yeah, some of these areas could pick up easily 5 to 8 inches. Again, isolated amounts of double-digit totals possibly coming in and around the Connecticut area, Rhode Island area, Massachusetts area. It's not out of the question. Even New York City could pick up another possibly 8 inches of rainfall by the time we get towards the end of the month. So that's just an area of seeing an excessive amount of rainfall is just going to be adding to those totals as we get towards the end of the week. So man, I know it was a lot to cover, and then they got the snow as well. So don't forget about that. With those heavy snowfall of upwards to 5 feet in the higher elevations in the mountain regions, and sporadic amounts of 2 feet into, this is mainly mountain snow that you're going to be dealing with between now and to the rest of the week. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely subscribe to my channel, and catch me in the next latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.